speed of innovation. When we went to Mumbai and we had the same sort of framework, the expectation was, the question was, I think we have already got 100 million passports in India. So it's about scale. We've got Aadhaar, which is 1.4 billion people. So Delhi is about scale, and I can see that energy in the room. And that's what we're going to talk about, how AI is going to serve what innovation is going to give ROI, and how it will help with scale. So with that, let me just talk about, I think all of you, with your questions, I can make out that you are already on a maturity curve for AI and understand the foundations and the basics for it. I think we do understand that businesses and enterprises are going to reimagine businesses with AI. And there is going to be art of the possible and design thinking sessions. And where Minfi comes in is basically converting this art of the possible into art of practice. Is it actually what we are reimagining businesses? Is it possible to actually make it a practice and as BAU? And while doing that, I think we all talk about massive job losses, risk of job losses, but how do we do that in a way where we upskill our workforce and actually bring in AI plus humans and have a bionic approach and have a symbiotic relationship between humans and AI rather than bringing AI as agents to substitute our workforce. And I think that's what we're going to talk about. I think a larger part we really need to understand how to make enterprise transformation with AI successful. And it's important that what larger enterprise agenda seems to be and how do we align with it and use AI as a competitive advantage. And for that, we really need to align with the CEO's priorities. Really, we need to understand what's the nature of our organization. And each of the enterprises are going to behave differently depending on their journey. If you're talking about a large public sector undertaking, if you're talking about a large conglomerate, they really need to have several stakeholders. It's government, there's regulators, there are investors, employees, suppliers. You really need to run your business efficiently and really need to take care of the balanced scorecard. And that's what AI should be able to achieve. And when we're looking at larger objectives, when you are taking your initiatives in your organization, are you aligned with the balanced scorecard, what the CEO is perhaps looking at? But if you are an organization and enterprise in your journey, between let's say 20 plus years, pre-internet era, maybe what you're looking for is for gaining market share. You're already in top 3, the CEO is looking for to become top 2, or is looking to gain market share. Then AI is being looked at as how you can become more competitive and gain market share. And I think the very interesting part is the new age companies, right? If you are a digital native. If you are digital native, I think the choice is very clear. Either disrupt or be disrupted. And we have seen it all over. There is e-commerce got disrupted by Q-commerce now, and therefore your approach to business will be very, very different if you are in any of these enterprises. So this is a specific framework which we really need to first map our organization and align our enterprise AI objectives. With this, I think it's important to understand how far AI is coming. I think when we released this paper and this framework about 6 months back, this is something very interesting that we were looking at level 1 assistants. I think this is something where everybody who's familiar with, you want an access to, let's say, book a service. It was very much possible to go and talk to a bot and book a service. If you want a repair service or a whiteboard, it was possible to do through an assistant. But it was primarily rule-based. But if we move to level 2, we may have seen already, right, some of the food chains and let's say Q-commerce now. We are talking about basically, let's say if delivery is not happened, you can actually talk and your refund can come by an agent. The basic reasoning and planning can be done by an analyst because it can analyze the situation, that what is being said by a customer. When we were talking about consumer service, that something which is being stated here, it is not, there is a merit in it, and therefore we should accept and take a decision on it. I think this is the third level of agent. I think we are yet to see in a full scale and size that which can actually, an agent can achieve a goal. Let's say you just decide that all of a sudden you get a off and you can make a short trip, and now you want your agent is actually aware of your context and plans an end-to-end trip for a weekend for you. Can it actually look at your flights? Can it look at your hotel? Can it actually make the bookings? Can it apply for a leave? All of it is like a goal. And can you work backward? And it is almost can come to a stage where it becomes semi-autonomous, which means it makes all the preliminary bookings, it just comes for you to confirm and it just acts on it. And that's the level 3 of agent which is possible. Let's look at what a level 4 agent can do. Let's say healthcare. We often have the situation, right? We have sore throat, we have a situation where we may go for undertake a test, we might have to be recommended an X-ray, sometimes we have to take an animal to a CT scan. You have multimodal data coming in, physician to patient interaction, there is reports which are there, structured reports, there is actually image, there could be even voice samples to understand what is going to happen with your, what kind of ailment are you having. Can it be a risk for pneumonia or not, let's say. But that's level 4 of SME, which we are already seeing in play even in India, and we'll talk about some of the examples there. But the final stage, which is what enterprises are finally going to look for, is going to be sort of a chief strategy officer, a chief of AI agents. Really at the topmost level. That's what the enterprise boards and CEOs are really looking for. Let's say you are a bank and you have to grow your business and gain market share. Now, you have options to go and increase your digital banking versus your branch banking. How do you make that decision? How do you make a business plan for it? If it is going to be a 3-year strategy, can your chief of AI agent understand the context of your own organization, understand the capital availability, understand your compliance requirements, understand the team workforce you have, and actually understand the market environment and say, maybe you don't need to open so many branches because in 3 years' time, there will be far more number of Gen Zs, and they will only be operating through digital banking. And therefore, your split of your branch banking versus your digital banking need not be 50-50, but skewed toward digital banking for 70-30. And you don't need to hire more number of people because you will have AI augmented people, and your current team will be able to take care of the new branches which will open. And that's what finally at that level your CEO is expecting from AI, to be able to strategize, to be able to make recommendations, to be able to make plans, and get to this stage. Of course, there are going to be on the journey many number of agents which will get built. But if this is the goal eventually, fast forward 1 to 3 years from now, then how do you work backwards from there? I think that's very critical. And with that, I just want to talk about, when we talk about unified AI platform for enterprises, what will it really mean? And there are frameworks which we are talking about. One of them, first starting framework is, what is our AI quotient? I think we were talking about, like, Delhi is not so popular about AIQ index, right? But this is different AIQ. This is the AI quotient for enterprises. So this is, the way we define AI quotient is AI density into AI intensity. Now what density really means is across the operation, requisite number of tools across the organization available to you as agents, and AI first approach. The second big part is just having tools is not going to be enough. It has to be the right tool with right adoption and with right process. Therefore, I call it intensity. Are you using it enough? Are your teams using it enough? And that will determine your AIQ score. And we have a framework, we'll talk about that, how AIQ score can be done for your own enterprise. I think this is very important. I think some of the others questioned about this AI human. that can it be reliable? Multiple questions emerge because of hallucination and many other things. How will we actually go about using, leveraging the combination and symbiotic relationship between AI and humans? And it will be both ways. There will be times, like the example we spoke about, you will have an AI recommended, let's say, itinerary, and the human has to sort of confirm and say, yes, this is fine. And therefore, AI and human will have to. Sometimes there will be a different situation. I think many of us also, let's say, draft sometimes a legal agreement or a business construct, a joint venture or partnership agreement between two organizations. And we understand the construct. But we want this agreement, once we have drafted it, to be reviewed by AI if the language and template is fine. And then sometimes the maker-checker approach will be different. It will be started by AI and human will check it. There will be times when human will prepare it and AI will reconfirm. So you will have this as a design and as a principle for the unified AI platform. I think the other big thing which we have been talking about, that if we really want to make AI truly, hold the promise what we really expect from AI, then we need to have the entire structured and unstructured data available to us. So multimodal data is going to be extremely important, and at the same time, we really need metadata harmonization. So we really need to understand what do we really mean by this data. How is it indexed? Is the data schematic actually built? Then only there will be a context. But it could be a different context in different situation. Within the same enterprise, a person or a situation could be named differently. And therefore, metadata becomes extremely important to get the right context. This again is where I think there is huge hesitation to embrace AI, right? We're talking about responsible AI, ethics, can we rely it? What about privacy? So many questions about explainability of AI. This has to be done right at the inception stage, because this is the foundational layer. When we reach to the chief of AI, the chief of strategy position, we can't go back and disagree on the data we have, or whether we are resilient, reliable or not. Now, for this, essentially what we really need is, let's take multiple examples of this. Let's say there's a situation where I want to know as an intern within the company, I've just come in, I have an access to an agent, and I just want to know let's say, what is going to be the hiring plan of this organization? Or are there going to be any layoffs? That information cannot be, it should not be accessible to this individual. Versus if the question is being asked by the HR head, that answer should be available. So how you fine-tune your data? If it is a financial data, if it is a legal data, who should have access to it? Should the, let's say all legal under NDA cases be accessible to somebody really, let's say from another, but somebody from the marketing, or somebody who should not have access. Now, unless the data is trained specifically, there will be no way to sort of delineate on how this data is going to be trained, and fine-tuning would be done on the models. And therefore, this is to be done at the inception. The last big part which we talked about, right, is I think AI agents. Last 1 year, 18 months, we've been talking about AI agents for some time. The important part is how do we really achieve multi-agent orchestration? If they are going to be a CFO agent, you will have a marketing agent, you will have HR agent, you will have core business agents. How will they interact? And that is at the Uber level. Even below that, there will be multiple agents for multiple tasks, multiple functions. And therefore, this needs to be orchestrated. Of course, we have spoken about one framework is model context protocol. How does MCP really help? How A2A communication would happen? Agent to agent communication. And how will the agent context protocol will be set up? I think this is again a very important principle when we actually set up the custom unified AI platform. Now, to make this happen, I think just to really talk about how this is going to all come together. I think many of you perhaps are already on the cloud infrastructure layer. We spoke about the metadata the data mesh and building your knowledge graph to understand how you will have the data schematic. Once you have cloud infrastructure layer and knowledge graph done, it is easier, far easier for you to build your intelligent platform. You have on the left what you see is, so many applications, dozens of applications in a large enterprises which pre-exist. They have to talk and interact with each other. What we are suggesting here is to make enterprise general intelligence reference architecture really real. You really need to create an enterprise twin. And what do we really mean by enterprise twin? Enterprise twin actually is not a static version of a blueprint of an organization. It gets updated with the new dynamic data which becomes available. And it gets updated. So in real time, you have a full context of your intranet, your internal organization, your external environment, and what got intimately available through your email, chats, interviews, whatever meeting conversations have happened. And therefore it is available as in real time. That's what we are trying to achieve through the eGIRA framework. Now, of course, this is all vision and reference architecture and the functional architecture for it. This is supported by the complete technical architecture on how this is going to be possible. Data is the foundation here. Right? We really have to have the data lake storage. We need to build a data warehouse. We spoke about harmonized data, making the metadata, have context-aware connectors where MCP will come in, the model context protocol will come in. You have enterprise systems which will have multimodal data, and how that multi-agent orchestration would happen. And finally, you have the AI agents who are accessing all of this data and information through sort of digi-clones or the twins. Twins for individuals, twins for our goals, which will exist in enterprises. This is all going to come together. And this is the functional and technical architecture which is available. But what I really want to talk about, this is not only envisioning or a reference architecture. What you will see now next is, I'll invite Pramod, who is from AWS, who's going to talk about how for each of these layers, technology already exists and platform does exist, and how do you really make it really achievable, accessible, and available as on date itself. So with that, let me invite Pramod.
Hey, thanks, Vikram. Okay, we'll dive in very quickly. The second one, we just switch slides. Okay. Right. That's the theme, and basically I'm going to just pick up from where Vikram left off. Right? He's talking about the primitive, he's talking about the building blocks, and let's just take a pause to understand why is it that data is so important. Right? If you look at the graph on the screen, it basically talks about the effect of generative AI on data, and if you look at the timeline closely, it coincides with post-COVID era, essentially where there was an explosion of data. Right? Most businesses moved online. Almost every customer touch point was treated as a data point. Right? So that's the importance of data in this area. The point is, because you have so much data now in the enterprise, you have a fantastic opportunity to monetize it in terms of using generative AI. Right? So if we dive in a little bit and understand a little bit of the mental model in terms of how we think about data, ideally it should be able to capture the variety of data that's sitting in your enterprise, essentially structured, unstructured, streaming. Again, Vikram touched upon these aspects. The idea is that you should have data stores to account for the variety of your data. The second piece is, once you have that in place, you need to make sure that you're able to integrate these data and actually draw out some insights. Okay? And last but not the least, when you are sharing this data within the enterprise as well as with your partners across, it should be done with the right governance mechanism so that your CISO does not lose sleep. Right? That's very, very important in enterprise. Vikram again touched upon some of the inhibitors, to building a data-first mindset. The one thing that he spoke about, apart from changing the culture, is around how do you align to your business objectives, right? How do you align to the CEO's objectives in terms of when you're driving your data strategy? And now in the era of generative AI, it's become even more pointed that you do that, right? Because a lot of the agentic use cases that that Vikram stressed is essentially going to flow from your data strategy, right? And last but not the least, in terms of the trust, again from a generative AI standpoint, you need to ensure that the governance mechanisms, the responsible AI frameworks that you build in your organization must cater to this aspect so that the trust remains extremely high in your enterprise. So if you look at as technologists, right, I think we're always faced with this choice of trade-off. When you're building a platform and when you're making a decision, you're either amping down something, you're either bringing up something else. You know that if you have to amp something else up, you'll have to probably compromise on something else, cost, performance, latency, whatever, right? The point is, what if we can have both, right? What if we don't have to make this trade-off? I mean, how great would that be, right? And that's something that we have learned, from our customers when they talk about their expectations from a data platform. They actually want the same set of rich services, which helps them customize to the maximum degree, but at the same time, they also want to access it, to be able to use it in the most unified, in the most simple manner. And again, that's, if you look at the concept, that's like, say, two ends of the spectrum, extreme, right? And if you look at, the data journey today, which is what Vikram ended with, right? The idea is that you want to be able to make sure that the data flows from the producers, to the consumers in the most seamless fashion. And let's face it, as technologies, as enterprises, our data platforms have evolved in a certain way. We have made certain choices. It is a mix and match of various aspects, right? And the idea is that can you take the same platform and work towards your generative AI applications, building them, monetizing them, etc. One way is to look at platforms like Ejira, where it will help you build a framework while you fix the long-term strategy. The idea is that what we'll bring to the table is the underpinning technology in terms of ensuring that you're able to take incremental gains wherever you have gaps, while also utilizing your existing investments. So the mental model that we have, that your enterprise data strategy should essentially be unified. Unified why? As I said, take into account all the data that's sitting in enterprise, because your generative AI applications will only be as good as the data that you use to train them on, right? Secondly, it should be easy. It should be easy to use that data. It should be easy to marry the data in various formats for you to derive insights that's actually going to drive business decisions, right? And last but not the least, it should be available to you at the best price performance possible, right? You don't want to end up spending too much, but you want to just end up spending just right, okay? And which is why our next generation of Amazon SageMaker was launched, okay? It's basically your one center for data analytics and AI in one place, okay? And when you look at the concept and the vision that Vikram was talking to you about, it's essentially you need to have something like this underpinning that kind of vision. Only then you'll be able to take advantage of the kind of use cases that you want to start, from simple chatbots to to autonomous agents that that Vikram spoke about. The most important thing though, whenever we talk about data in the generative AI space, it is your most crucial asset. Right? We are, part of us are in regulated industries, part of us are not. As a country, we are about to monetize. As a country, we are about to formulate, a data protection act, etc. You got to be very, very cognizant of the fact that your data is your biggest differentiator. Whatever you build today in terms of generative AI is going to be valuable to you if you use your own data. If you use generic data, it's not going to be valuable to you or your enterprise. It's not going to drive any value, right? Most importantly, when you use this data with foundational models or with large language models, you should be able to ensure that you're encrypting your data in transit and rest, you're protecting them, you're ensuring that you're adhering to all the your responsible AI practices. One way of ensuring that you do that and you don't have to check those boxes every time is to obviously get onto platforms like an enterprise AI platform, what Vikram spoke about. The other thing is that underpinning the platform, you need strong technology and certification, foundation payments. For example, Amazon Bedrock, which is Amazon's flagship generative AI platform. It's actually one of the first platforms to be certified ISO 42001. And by ISO 42001, it's a standard that refers to building and maintaining responsible and ethical AI systems. So when you underpin your platform on such parameters, then whatever you build on the top of it, you ensure that you're adhering to the latest techniques, right? So essentially, in summary, what I want to say is that all of us need to focus on the foundation that actually matters for generative AI, which is essentially data. With that, I'll end my presentation. Hand over back to Vikram.
Thanks, absolutely wonderful. I think we just saw this, right? That all that framework and reference and vision we just spoke about, and as you were mentioning, right? If we released this only 7 months back, for every block you had a technology available from AWS. So there's Bedrock, SageMaker, all the technology components are here, and at the same time, the foundation which we spoke about, the starting point is data and how you build on it. The interesting part is the speed of AI, how we are achieving it. Both not only framework is available, not only technology platform is available, somebody really forward-looking has already begun the journey, and I would say they are halfway already there. With that, let me invite Shailin Gupta from Apollo Tires and really share about their journey, how they've already really made very interesting use cases here.
Thank you. So far you have heard what should be done. What I'm going to talk about is how we have actually done it in reality. And for all the techies here, I think this will be the most interesting thing looking at this diagram. Considering a manufacturing organization, we start with the manufacturing plants, the source of all the data that we have. You saw in Vikram's slide, he was talking about the structured, unstructured data. We have real-time data coming from the IoTs, the PLCs using the green grass. We have SAP, we have mixers, OLTP databases, Oracle, you name it, SQL, Oracle, Postgre, whatever. We have a couple of SaaS systems. We pull the data through the REST APIs. We have our test labs and a lot of market intelligence data, third-party data, which comes in Excel and CSV format. So we started our journey 4 years back with AWS, and the first thing was to bring the clean data. Of course, before that, the data was in silos. The data was lying within the plants. We have 7 plants across the geography. A lot of reporting analytics was happening in Excel and PPTs as typically happens in the organization. So we moved to a unified reporting platform. The next thing was how to bring this data. So some of the services that we use for anything which is real time, immediately in the change data capture of the replication, we are using AWS DMS, and then for anything which is batch job, we use AWS Glue. And for streaming data, we have this, as I mentioned, IoT. The entire data comes here in a central global data lake. All the raw data comes first to S3. From there, using the Lambda functions, we insert it into our central data warehouse, which is built on Amazon Redshift. So a year back when we started our AI journey, before that it was reporting, exploratory data in Jupyter, notebooks, typically what data science team performs. And when the LLMs really became mature, a lot of models were available in Bedrock, guardrails came in, knowledge base came in. A year back we started consuming this data. Now because this practice was absolutely mature, consuming the data was extremely easy. So today, whatever you want to consume, you have at a central place. It's not that I have to go to individual plants or individual applications. Everything is available here as a copy. I can join it, I can create the metadata around it, and that's what goes into the knowledge base. And from there, I consume this data and either do the reporting or do my applications. A lot of applications are already in production. We are doing a lot of video analytics. For health and safety, we are doing vision analytics for warranty claims, exclaim ages. And then even in the plants, what Vikram spoke about, we are already at level 4 where we are doing a root cause analysis using the LLMs. So I'll talk about only two cases which are actually on the public domain. If you Google them, you can see the complete tech block and you can find the whole architecture of these two cases. So the first is tire genealogy. Now tire as such looks like a black donut, but in reality it is made of a lot of semi-finished components. There is an inner wall, side wall, bead and so many components. So when you want to improve the quality of a tire or when a defect comes, you want to understand what exactly happened. Where was the problem? So this is what the entire traceability of the genealogy is. Now genealogy is an extremely complex process. The manufacturing execution system captures all the data, what raw material was used, at what assembly line it went to, and finally, you know what happened to the tire that was baked into the queuing process. And this entire thing, if you want to do a traceability, the MEA system stores the data in a typical RDBMS system, the Oracle and SQL of the world. If I want to search a single record, if I want to search a single record as a barcode or any of the genealogy parameters, the SQL server performs a CTE or a recursive operation. So it wants to find out what parents were used to manufacture a child, and from this what further childs were manufactured. So it's a recursive operation on both sides, forward and backward, both sides. Searching this thing is a very computational intensive process. So when we started this thing, we thought something different. We are now using Neptune, which is a graph database, one of the unique cases. The problem with Neptune was we have inserted the data, but then to query the data, you can't use the typical SQL. So you have to use OpenCipher. So there's a long learning curve on that. So what we did, why should we do that? Why should we learn it? We went to Bedrock. Then in the LLMs, we simplified a natural query. Get the level 1 nodes connected to a barcode disk. Now this LLM is going to convert this query, human language, into the OpenCipher. OpenCipher will be executed on my Neptune, and then from Neptune I will get the results and display it. In past, on SQL, my people were able to search a single barcode. Today they are able to search 8 barcodes at the same time, and we are using serverless Neptune here, and it works. The second use case that I'm going to talk about, where I was talking about we are already at level 4, so root cause analysis. Now as I mentioned, we have this entire data in the data warehouse in Redshift. The business people or the people on the shop floor, the manufacturing people are not so tech savvy. They can't go and design their own reports or every time fire a SQL statement. So what should I do? I gave them again the power of the LLM. They simply interact with an agent that what was my manufacturing performance on a specific machine. And from that they can further deep dive into the whole root cause analysis using this particular application that we have developed. So these are the just two use cases at the high level. Of course, underneath, if you want to see the complete details, the technology, the diagrams, you can Google it. There is a complete tech blog on both the subjects. So this is actually in reality what we are doing on the ground. So that's all pretty much from my side as a practical use case to discuss, to show and tell. Happy to take any questions. If anybody has any queries, happy to answer. Jointly with Vikram and Pramod.
With that, actually, we should give a round of applause. You can imagine, right? We are already at level 4, and I think many organizations are at the beginning of their journey. I think there are a lot of questions. We see organizations who really want to be ahead, leverage this as competitive advantage. They are already building it for level 5, and it takes time. But happy to sort of take questions from any one of us.
I have no, thank you. I'm sorry, very good use cases you have presented. Just wanted to know when you are using such use cases, one side the data lab which you are using, other side different various business cases you are trying to explore. While you are taking the kind of the final essence of it, how are you explaining that that is the explainability, I think. Vikram, you talked about it. So, and that's that, while you are building those explainability, especially for taking the, kind of a, which the impact doesn't kind of a goes to negative side of AI. How much time you took to kind of a stabilize and say to kind of a take a decision which is going towards a good AI. So that part will you explain.
So the question is to me. Sure, happy to take the question. You are right. When it comes to AI, trust is a key factor. So we spoke to AWS, the data that we are going to share, how secure that is, and then the user says that whatever the data we are sharing with them, it is not going to be used for the training of their models. That is certified. When we started this whole program, we actually downloaded, at that time it was Llama 2. I personally downloaded Llama 2 and I configured the entire Llama 2 open source edition onto an independent EC2 instance, okay, and then using one of the GPUs. When everything was working fine, I was satisfied. Then I started experimenting with Bedrock. So we ensure that we go slow, we verify that how things are working, okay, and then after AWS convinced us that yes, this is what the agreement says, nothing will be shared with whatever you have. So only then we started trusting that, and now they have further matured with guardrails and all that we have started putting in the second use case that we saw.
I'll just add, maybe I think there's two-part question which perhaps. One is explainability of the root cause and eventually whether it hallucinated or not. Is there accuracy? Can we go and is it a black box or not? Right? So I think there are two parts. Like for this use case, they have gone through the due diligence. They have looked at the model. They have looked at the more structured data. Looked at the use case impact also. So as I said, they went slow. This is then they can start relying on it and then look at the impact of it. But the eventual goal which we are talking about, chief of AI agents, before we can allow a chief strategy officer to say open branches, I think it will take, we are multi-years away from that. But you are right, but the question is there and there are methods and mechanisms to start building trust. One of them is of course the AI, human AI loop. And the other big interesting thing is agent for agents. So now the maker-checker role is also being played by multi-agent. So that itself sort of improves the accuracy and the explainability as well.
So, as a closing comment, the best proof of all this is to ensure that we have a certification in place, the industry standard ones. So if you see, what Shailendra was talking about in terms of how we convinced him, the idea is that when you have Bedrock certified on SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, GDPR, HIPAA, ISO 40001, all those things should actually put your concerns to rest because of the standard certification.
Going forward, it will be repeated.
My question is to Shailendra. Shailendra, I think awesome use case for that, the production, the manufacturing one I think which you did for using LLMs. Am I audible, Shailendra?
Yeah, I was just looking who's speaking, so I lost half part of it.
So I think very interesting use case on the manufacturing part. Since we all know that using GenAI or all the AI agents, the CEOs basically, they demand it to be very fast, right? Because they don't give you like 2 years or 3 years down the line. They want us to build it fast. I want to understand, is it a static table for where you are getting all the information for the manufacturers, or you have actually dynamically built the queries inside the entire database, which is getting each and every nitty-gritty of the question and give the dynamic answer to that. And if the first one, I think I'm good. If the second one is the solution, how you did it and how much time?
Yeah. So the best part of LLM is they are extremely strong today in generating the queries, in generating the code. This is one of the best and strongest use cases of LLMs. All the queries are dynamic. It doesn't make sense to have static queries, then I don't need LLM. Right? I can simply map a text into a mapping table. If this is the text, this is the query, go and fire it. The whole point of using LLM is today LLMs can understand the context of the user. What we have done is only created the metadata layer. In my Redshift, the column name is customer underscore ID, customer underscore name. In the metadata, I have actually explained it. Customer ID, customer name, and what joins I'm expecting. All queries are 100% dynamic. There is nothing static. Of course, you have to train the model a little bit with prompt engineering. So that context has to be passed. You are an expert agent in SQL and then you understand the context. And then we gave some of the queries for it to understand the metadata. So those 10 prompts, 15 prompts are there. After that, it is all dynamic queries, nothing static. And I guess that's where, of course, partners play a big role in such things. We are a manufacturing company, we are not an IT company. We don't have the internal teams. Whatever we do, we outsource. That's where the AWS, the Minties, and such partners of the world come in. They guide us how to, build these things. So we do a POC, as I mentioned, and then from this POC, we scale up.
How much time it took to actually take your time, the time span?
See, if I say we can do this within a week, you'll be very surprised. This is actually, you can do these things within a week or within a month. As long as your metadata is in a central place, it is clean, neat and clean. It is just plug and play. Metadata, see, it's a long journey. Building a metadata can take 3 months, can take 6 months. Dependent on, today in my Redshift, which is a multi-terabyte 4-node cluster, I am not aiming at 100%. So I started with one subset, one plant, what is their pain point, what is their need. So start with particular thing. Yesterday I was talking to somebody as a reference call from AWS, they have 16 plants. I said, why are you going with 16 plants? Start with 6, start with 2. Why are you targeting all the 16 plants? Have a success story, then scale up. Right? So when you say metadata, metadata is a complete C in your data warehouse. Take a subset, take one particular, now in the assembly line also we started with only one assembly part of it, mixers. Okay, then after that we scaled it up to the rest of the assembly line areas. So start with that and then gradually you will see the ROI coming.
Sharon, one should see, being in cloud and data, right, there will be always growth, right, and the most worry is the cost, right, for every CFO and CIO, they always worry because data is really going to grow, right. Any recommendation from your side of how you are going to manage your cost, which is growing on from data side, how you are taking care of duplication of data, right, all these things?
That's a very common and general problem. Again, I would say Google about a 10th law, where we moved nearly 80 terabytes of our on-prem data onto AWS. So we have completely cut down the capex. When you go to the board, what is their expectation? Do you need the capex? Do you need the opex? Okay, so you go and say, I need a capex, and then the validity of this capex is 7 years. I'm going to buy a huge NAS system where I will store probably 20 terabytes of data. And then one day what happens, the NAS goes down. Your plant is shut for 8 hours, the whole ROI of capex is gone. Right? The other option is, we completely removed all the on-prem NAS and SAN systems, bare minimum. We have moved, as I mentioned, nearly 80 terabytes of my on-prem data from the MES systems, historians and everything onto the cloud. In addition to that, today every image that is generated in my plant immediately moves onto the cloud using the file share on S3. S3 is one of the cheapest storage. Use S3 wherever you can. Many vendors come to us, they say, give me an EC2 instance with 1 terabyte of EBS. I said, why? Why do you want it? You need 200 GB for the operating system and the application, use it, rest everything has to go to S3. So we map S3 using the file gateway. So the data problem in terms of the cost is solved, and then if you activate the intelligent storage on S3, my cost for today we are 180 terabytes, and my cost is much less than, if I calculate the ROI, it will be 10 years of SAN storage on-prem.
So
That way.
Any practice around cloud FinOps, right? Particular to data lake side, right?
So we are extremely aggressive when it comes to cloud FinOps. A lot of people come to us, do this POC, I need a dev system. All my dev systems are shut down over the night, over the weekend. Nobody needs them. Nobody is doing the development. My QA systems are shut down over the night and the weekend. There's an auto scheduler in AWS, you can use that. My production systems, I always tell a golden rule. If you can run it on Linux, if you're on AWS, you can run it on Linux. I use AWS Linux, royalty free. I'm not using REHL, I'm not using SUSE Linux Enterprise until unless needed. If you can run it on Graviton, I'll run it on Graviton. After that, I'll go to AMD, after that, I'll go to Intel. So my FinOps are extremely bullish on that. Even my RDS systems, except SQL Server, are running on Graviton. So my cost is 80% down than Intel.
Thanks.
Hello. Hi. Rajdeep.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Rajdeep, I'm from MetLife. So one question from a business point of view, from a business angle, that a couple of questions. One is that you have developed this particular system, this particular LLM and everything. How? What is the next step for this? What is the next level? Are you going to do a predictive analysis of what kind of tires you are? Main is the tire, right? How you evolve with in your products, right? Using this data and everything. You are streamlining the current data, that is fine. But what is the next step on this? And second is, what is your differentiator with your partners, with your competitors, maybe? Because if you are doing it, I think the other tire makers are all also doing the same kind of things, right? They are also using AI. How you differentiate yourself with your competitors?
Yeah, sure. So use cases are abundant. One is in the manufacturing side, you mentioned tire. But then beyond the tire, we are also consumer facing, right? There are dealers, there are people, you and me, we use the tire in our cars. There are feedback which comes on LinkedIn, Twitter, and also we do a lot of analysis on that, sentimental analysis. So it's not just on the tire side, but even on the consumer satisfaction side, there are a lot of analytics which can be done, which we are doing. The best part of this whole LLM journey is that now we do not create reports. There is no central reporting team creating the reports in QuickSight or Power BI. I don't need that. With this, to the power to the business, they fire a query. Okay. The second use case that I showed you, it also generates the graphs. So for my business, even if my CXOs or the top management, they can use this thing to query what was my sale as of yesterday, what was my sale year to year, quarter to quarter, where exactly it is dipping. So you don't have the static report for that. The LLM can generate that, it will generate the whole graph, it will explain the graph, otherwise you have to understand the graph. So that is the next level that we are looking at. As I told you, this Redshift, so with Redshift and the latest knowledge graph which has been launched by AWS, I can immediately connect my Redshift to knowledge graph and immediately query it. So I don't need any other thing except my natural language. I can query my entire Redshift for all the users, business and manufacturing, and then they can use it for generation of the reports. Yes, competition is always healthy. We are happy what competitors are doing. We want to, up the game. I can't understand what exactly they are doing. I can only present what we are doing. But the objective is that this should give us some kind of strategic advantage, first mover advantage in the market. That's what our aim is.
Hi everyone, my name is Bharat. I have questions from for Pramod. Yeah, so Pramod, I'm from MetLife. We are a 150 plus years company and we have multiple CIOs. So when it comes to data hub, we have a lot of duplication of data instances, right? But the custodian, the core team is the data management team, right? So from AWS, we are on Azure right now, on Azure.
Okay.
The only burning issue today we have to achieve data democratization, and also when it comes to data breakage, how do you ensure that you have a proper data linkage system where we can actually type data quality which we are studying right now?
See, there's no easy answer to that, honestly. I think one thing is that there are two, three challenges, right? If you look at the way data formats have evolved over the years, right? There were multiple investments that happened early on. There was a Spark project, and the Iceberg project. There are multiple people who backed multiple formats. Iceberg obviously has come forward in a big way. Multiple people are now backing that, right? The vision that we have is essentially that irrespective of what your, let's say, your query engine is, you should be able to have a catalog, basically to ensure that you're able to query that catalog using any engine right now, essentially. So So what am I saying? It's saying that right now we don't know what the future is going to look like. If anyone comes and tells you that, oh, I know exactly how this is going to pan out, they're fooling you. So the best way to ensure that you are able to be in a position to take advantage is to ensure that you're in the most open possible architecture, right? So one way could be today if you're on Azure, the way you evolved, it can be different pieces that you're working on. More importantly, what you need to focus on is the outcome that you're trying to drive. So let's say you're trying to build an agentic use case today, right? The Shailendra spoke about text to SQL or text to code kind of use case. Agentic, right? You can actually use it for to accelerate your modernization journey also in a way. Now today you said you might have different data stores, you might have a lot of data replication. Instead of going to trying to clean up that mess from ground up, the best way of achieving value immediately is to just create an agentic workflow for whatever end outcome that you're trying to do in your business use case. When an agent goes in, goes into those, touches those data stores, does the deduplication, the process on the way, does intelligence where it has to take a call in terms of what it has to do, and then returns the value. This can be a shorter path to modernization while you fix the larger problems. But that is something that you still have to fix. The best way to do is your custodian, the one single custodian. Mostly it happens that you have multiple data custodians in an organization. That obviously needs to, now in the area of generative AI, that needs to cease. We need to, as organizations, we need to really understand that we need to have a single custodian, only then will that unification, true unification happen. Two ways to do that. One, you have a role which does that in the organization. Second, you also bet on a platform that helps you do that, which helps you stay as open as possible, while at the same time you're able to process as many formats as possible. It's a long winding answer, but essentially that's what the thing should be. So short term, use agentic workflows. Long term, fix the platform, unify, have a single stakeholder, build a platform or invest in a platform that helps you do that.
Regarding this use case that you talked about in enterprise, right from the initial phases when you talk about the discovery to the final tangible outcome, how much time will it take the entire journey? And what are the typical challenges which you face during this journey at different phases as a business?
So the overall time was around 2 months. The biggest challenge always is the data mapping the context of it. Okay. Once you have done that, it's just easy for the LLM to make it understand. So when you do the root cause analysis, what exactly is the root cause analysis? How should LLM understand the context of it? When you are saying this is not right, that is wrong, it should go find out which column to pick, how to summarize, average, or compare it, or join the tables. So that training takes the biggest time. Okay. Building this whole UI interface application is the easy game nowadays.
We are closing it. Last thing I would just say is we are now running a campaign. What we spoke about the AI Cube, we can do it for your enterprise. There is a place where you can do. We spoke about level 5, the 2B situation, but we can also help you determine where your as is and what your current AI Cube score is. So that's running around outside at the booth, and you can go get more details about it. Once again, round of applause for the panelists here. Thank you again for participating.
Thank you. But I would request all the speakers to be on the stage. We would have to felicitate you. For the felicitation, I would like to invite Mr. Golak Kumar Singh to handle the two floors. Once again, a huge round of applause for the entire team of guest speakers. Thank you so much. Mrs. Shailendra Gupta.
Thank you.
Mr. Pramod Bhuga.
Thank you.
We have a group picture if all four of us say yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now moving to the another keynote session led by our guest of honor. I'm glad to invite Mr. Golak Kumar Singh. He is the Principal Advisor and Chief Technology Officer with Pass